Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Carolina Weather Group. This is the Saturday, September 15th, 2018 edition of Hurricane Florence, Tropical Storm Florence, and now slow as a turtle Florence coverage as we continue to track Florence through the Carolinas. It's been a very long day for all of us in the Carolinas. Either you've been experiencing the effects of Florence down in eastern North Carolina or northeastern South Carolina, or you've been anticipating the arrival of Florence in the Charlotte and the area, and the Raleigh area, Greensboro area, back towards the Asheville area and the upstate of South Carolina. So really the only areas being affected today is maybe the Columbia area and the Myrtle Beach up into the Wilmington and Morehead City area. So it's been a very long day, and will continue to be a long day throughout, I guess, the weekend. So we are live tonight, so if you have any questions that you want to bring towards us that we can maybe help answer for you, please do that. We're on Facebook Live or Periscope, so you may comment those questions. We'll be monitoring them throughout the show. Tonight we have our regular group of panelists on. We have Jared Smith on from Charleston, South Carolina, Shay Gibson on from Charleston, South Carolina, and Chris Jackson on from Columbia, South Carolina. So Ricky Matthews is, since it's Saturday night, this is Ricky's night to work, so he's on WCYB tonight, and James is off doing some wedding festivities up in New York. So the rest of the crew is here and ready to talk a little bit about Florence, and I'm going to toss it to Jared Smith, and Jared will give us the latest update from the Hurricane Center. Jared?
Howdy, guys. Good evening, everyone. Let me get the screen share up for y'all to show you what's what from the Hurricane Center here. There's a lot. I have lots of screens to share, apparently. This is interesting. Hope everybody is doing all right this evening. It's a rather harrowing 24 hours out in the eastern North Carolina, and for some reason my screen share is absolutely blowing up on me. So you know what? We're not going to show a track. You're just going to look at my pretty face. And can you guys hear me?
That's all right, Jared. I can help you out here. Let me pull mine up and
yeah.
Let me know what you want to talk about, and I'll toggle around, and you can kind of discuss what's going on.
Yeah, let's just get the 3-day up there. All right, cool. Thanks, man. All right, so here's a Tropical Storm Florence. Still a tropical storm as of 8 o'clock. Intermediate advisory 66A. It's a max sustained winds of 45 miles an hour. Kind of hanging on to that over the last couple of advisories. Movement is west at 2 miles per hour. Yes, a whole 2 miles an hour. You can walk faster than this storm is going, just to keep that in mind. And it's in the good news is that this should begin to speed up and get moving along at some point very soon. But it is located 45 miles south-southwest of Florence, South Carolina, and 65 miles east-southeast of Columbia. And again, moving west at 2, and the minimum pressure is up to 997 millibars. So again, definitely not the deepest storm. We still have a tropical storm warning in effect from the South Santee River to Surf City, North Carolina. Every other headline at this point is down, including the storm surge watch and warning. That is off the grid. That's off the board. And again, the wind field is still pretty large on this guy. This tropical storm force winds still extend outward about 150 miles, mostly to the east of the center, near the coast, and over water, according to the Hurricane Center. So still seeing some sustained winds here. So Hurricane Center sees a sustained wind of 46 miles an hour with a gust of 59 at the Johnny Mercer Pier in Wrightsville Beach. And a gust of 45 was recently reported near Hartsville. So again, for those of us in Charleston, it's been kind of a drizzly, kind of a quiet day, but it's still decidedly the opposite of that to the north. An additional 15 to 20 inches is expected, with storm totals between 30 and 40 inches of rain along the North Carolina coast. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But that's ultimately it. We're going to see this drift a little bit more westward over Columbia, and then it should start to accelerate and get the heck out of Dodge for too long. It can't leave a moment too soon, quite frankly. It's definitely, flow is definitely overstayed or welcome. Scotty, back to you.
No, I've not really looked at the Hurricane Center tracks much today because we're now in nowcasting mode, at least where I'm at. But did I just see that it's supposed to redevelop as a tropical storm over the northern Atlantic?
Oh, that's funny. Well, it's a post-tropical cyclone, but it will achieve it'll achieve a tropical. Yeah, that's kind of funny. It will achieve tropical storm force winds again because, of course, Florence is broken all the rules. Has done a wonderful job of breaking rules.
Florence, Scotty, one of those. There's still up in that portion of the Atlantic. There's still a few warm pockets of water. We think by that time it'll be extra tropical, but could it gain? I would say if it's going to gain anything, it might be subtropical, just based on some of the warm surface waters that may give it some subtropical characteristic, maybe just enough. It should still be a cool core at that latitude, I believe. But yeah, that's an interesting letter to see there at the end of the run. I'm not too concerned because we're going to be firing the Viking arrow. Goodbye forever, Florence. And hopefully the WMO will be retiring that name after this year. We'll never see that name again. So.
I think Flo is I think her time is come and gone. We're all tired of her.
Yeah, we're looking forward to Flo getting caught up in the easterly flow, right? Or in the westerly flow and to get the flow out of Dodge. So there you go.
And before any weather people call me out, I know we're not supposed to refer it as a boy or a girl name, but come on. anyways, I digress. Let's talk about the most impacted area right now, and that continues to be the southeastern North Carolina, northeast South Carolina area, between Wilmington and Morehead City, Myrtle Beach, places like that. And Shay, they've seen just copious amounts of rainfall. I think Swansboro, the last that I saw, was over 30 inches of rain, which breaks the state record for North Carolina, rainfall associated with the tropical system. So, Shay, they continue to get the effects even tonight.
Yeah, Scotty, it's pretty bad. There's a lot of rain gauges I'm seeing even in the USGS network. They're not being included in the National Weather Service or National Hurricane Center readings because of some questions about their site, their instrumentation and how it's set up. There could be some question about that, but we may see those pop into the preliminary reports in time for some of those stations that are actually operating full force and getting good readings. But looking here at the infrared satellite, we're still seeing lots of streaming in along the southeast North Carolina coast. We see some gravity waving here just south of Wilmington, just off the coastline. And this could be an area, I know I saw this earlier and thought, that this line of convection could reform right here closer towards the Grand Strand area. And it looks like it might be trying to flare up right here in the last things. And most of this moisture, you can see it's just streaming in. The Gulf Stream is what is fueling this right now. You can see it on the eastern side, exactly where the Gulf Stream would be underneath it is fueling it all. So that's where this line may be redrawn a little bit further to the west, where it puts portions of Cape Fear over to the Grand Strand and into Myrtle Beach into the line of fire next with the fire hose. We look at GR Earth, get a better idea on radar what's going on. And you can get a little bit closer in. Now, there are some issues up that way right now. Tornado watch for portions of southeastern North Carolina, and I don't think that's ever been looked at. I think that's been something going on for the last day and a half. So we have bands of convection pivoting inland across coastal areas, southeastern North Carolina, the outer periphery of Florence. Continue to pose a risk for a couple of tornadoes as well as potentially damaging surface gusts through this evening. We do see winds. I just showed that a little bit ago through our wind alert readings at our coastal mesonet, where we were still getting gusts into the 40s. So mainly mid to upper 30s right now for some of these folks, especially where these bands are coming into the coast. These squall lines are producing some extra wind there. And this is just relentless. It really is. It's not going to end anytime soon. In fact, I think there's going to be an additional maybe foot or so. I'm going to look at ILM in just a second here. Where is that thing I had up earlier? Weather bell. And I don't see, I think I lost it in my bookmarks, but either way, weather bell was showing, I have the, and I'll show that up here in a little bit, the HER 3-kilometer model, which shows the precipitation rate for the next 18 hours, and it's impressive. So I'll find that and put it back up here. Oh, here it is right here, actually. The radar 15 minutes. And this is a 15-minute simulation for the next 8 hours. And if you look, you can see this banding just continue into the coastline. It's relentless. It looks to break up a little bit through the run. And you can see that band moving into the Grand Strand area. But yeah, so and again, just major issues going on. All right.
It looked the same. It looked the same last night.
Yeah, it sure did.
That's what's crazy.
It's just bad all the way around. Even as the storm drifts off to the west across Colombia, it just doesn't stop, and it's relentless. And this is exactly what happens when you have a slow-moving storm. Some portion of the coastline, as we saw with Harvey in Texas, some portion of the coastline with the inland stalling storm is going to get the brunt of this rain. So we're seeing in excess of 30 inches now. I think we're going to top that 40-inch mark that they've talked about in isolated areas. I think more areas are going to see more than 40 inches than just a few isolated spots. All right, let's look at this is the Weather Service Wilmington Tropical Storm Florence briefing at 6:30 p.m. by Reed Hawkins, who is the SOO. And all storm surge warnings have been discontinued. However, the onshore flow of the wind will be problematic by continuing to drive waters into the coastline. Now that the storm is well in, and the NHC looks like they're starting to transition this over to maybe the SPC, I believe, Scotty, is what you said earlier. I think that's might be what's going on.
WPC.
WPC, I'm sorry about that, yes. So the storm surge warnings have been discontinued. Inland tropical storm warnings have been discontinued as well for the ILM area. However, the tropical storm warnings are in effect inland and portions of Colombia, I believe, and we'll talk to Chris about that. The NHC only covers the coastline, leaves it up to the individual WFOs to make up their own decisions as far as their warnings go with tropical systems. Situational overview: life-threatening, catastrophic flash flooding, prolonged significant river flooding expected to continue. Slow motion of the storm will make this a very prolonged flood event. Tropical storm force winds are occurring along portions of the coastal counties. Winds should continue to slowly subside in the next 24 hours. The tornado threat has increased into tonight. So a lot of times these are going to be very fast moving. By the time they're warned out, they're likely going to be over with. So just be aware that that is still an issue. The main hazards for tonight and into tomorrow are going to be wind, storm surge, flood inundation, flooding rain, tornadoes, and there are marine issues as well in the surf and maritime areas. So driving, surf, high waves, and on the incoming tides. Potential impacts: wind elevated now that the winds are down, not so much of a threat. Surge, let's see, I'm not sure with the surge inundation why that wouldn't be up near high, but inland flooding is extreme at this point. The surge and inundation, I believe that's because they canceled the NHC product for that, so they're putting it at none right now. So that doesn't mean there isn't going to be surge. Tornado threat is moderate, and marine is extreme. Peak sustained wind gust. And this is going to be, for now, we're going with peak wind gusts up into the 40s offshore, upper 40s to near 50 offshore, low 40s along the coastline, and then lessening as you head inland into the upper 30s. So the wind field is still fairly wide and still affecting a lot of these folks here. Additional rainfall forecasts on top of what has already fallen. We're looking at an additional 15 inches up to the slot here to the north, just to the west of Lumberton and west of Burgaw and east of Lumberton. An additional 12 to 13 inches near Whiteville, Wilmington, Charlotte, Southport. These areas all an additional 9 inches down into the Grand Strand, inland South Carolina near Kingstree, an additional 6.5 to 7 inches. Florence with another 9 inches. Bennettsville with almost 13 more inches. So we have an extreme amount of rain still to come with this system on top of what you've already seen. Extreme flooding prompting numerous evacuations, rapid rises in rivers, floodwaters, road scours, complete failures. There's lots of, I'm sure, power lines down, lots of power outages, all kinds of issues with the flooding. Tornado threat exists. It's moderate all the way through Lumberton and Whiteville, Charlotte, and then we have elevated down into Florence, Kingstree, and Georgetown, South Carolina. Official NHC track there. Key points to finalize the ILM report here is catastrophic flooding. Long-term major river flooding are occurring or imminent. Flash flooding, river flooding impacts will continue. Major to record river flooding is likely through the upcoming week. We already saw that today where they broke the major values in the river heights. So not looking too good for ILM for the Wilmington area, and as they continue to deal with the system on many levels. Back to you, Scotty. If Scotty's still here.
Scotty had to jump out, so we're going to go over to Chris Jackson to talk about Columbia.
What's going on, guys? Let me pull up my chair here. Sorry. All right, so going forward to Columbia, I know a lot of people have been messaging me today, asking me if I made it back from the beach. Yeah, I made it back from the beach. Got home about 2 a.m. this morning. about a 6.5-hour drive. But looking at the weather around Columbia, most of the day today, it's just been a kind of a blah day. It's just been raining on and off for the most part of the day. Winds pretty light, but every now and then we get a little band of moose through and get a little gust, 20, 30 miles an hour. Nothing crazy to write home about. I'm going to set up a little screen share here real quick, and there we go. And you guys got radar scope up?
Yes, we see it just fine.
All right, so looking at the radar right now, the center of what's left of Florence looks like it's right there between Manning and Somerton somewhere. It's somewhere along I-95, just north of Santee. But you can see it ain't moving. It's not moving a whole lot at all. Since 3 a.m. last night, it's only moved about, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 miles, something like that. So, yeah, like Shay said, going overnight tonight, the rain's going to continue to pick up, especially in the eastern Midlands. For locations Columbia and West, especially all the way to the Savannah River, there might be another inch or two of rain at best, maybe 3 inches on the high end. But the area I'm worried about is anybody along the PD River basin, the Lumber River, Waccamaw River down in Conway, anybody around those rivers and any body of water. I'm really concerned because there's going to be a lot of rain still to come. I think there's a lot of people downplaying this. And, they're saying that, oh, the storm wasn't nothing. The storm wasn't nothing. And really the storm's just getting going. Once it became clear that the hurricane wasn't going to be a Cat 4 landfall, the biggest threat was obviously going to be the flooding. And many times than not, these widespread catastrophic flood events are slow evolving things that just happen. It takes days for them to happen. I know the PD River's forecasted to have a crest near record. Within 3 feet, which is pretty incredible because the Great PD River is a big river. It moves a lot of water, and to see that possible record crest is pretty incredible. Just going forward throughout the night, like Shay said, there's going to be an axis of heavy rain that sets up across the eastern Midlands. That moves down from the Lumberton area, maybe across Darlington, Florence, somewhere in that area. There's going to be a heavy band of rain that sets up overnight. With that heavy band of rain, somebody's going to get maybe a foot of rain when it's all said and done with, or more. So there's also going to be a little bit of a threat of tornadoes, especially going into the day tomorrow. Eastern Midlands, maybe up toward the Charlotte area, Chesterfield County. But, that remains to be seen. The biggest thing to worry about is going to be the flooding, hands down. And that's all I got. Toss it back up to Jared.
Thank you, Chris. I wanted to real quick touch on the Columbia area. And just talk about some of the rainfall amounts that they have coming out here. I looked at these earlier and thought, Columbia doesn't look too bad. I mean, you look about 2 to 3 inches, and then as you get up towards Toronto and Lancaster, you're really getting up in the rainfall amounts. That moisture is going to be surging westward up the foothills.
Go ahead, Shay.
No. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, that was something that, I really expressed to a lot of people, on my social outlets between Facebook, Twitter, and stuff like that. Where the shield of precipitation sets up is going to dictate the rainfall totals. And seeing that in, 3 days out, 4 days out, it's impossible. I was just looking at the NWS Columbia graphic between Newberry and Camden. There's almost a 10-inch, I think, difference between Newberry and Camden. I don't have it pulled up right now. It's only 50 miles. And so that's huge. Trying to forecast that in advance is I don't say impossible, but next to impossible. But, the rainfall totals on the eastern side of the South Carolina is going to be legit, and it's going to cause some catastrophic widespread river flooding.
Right. And they're also calling for some folks asking about the lakes. Lake wind advisory is in effect for all areas, flash flood watches. Additional rainfalls. You can find all this on the National Weather Service CAE website, Columbia website. Brief isolated tornadoes possible, winds with power lines, down trees and power lines possible. So all these little things that are just part of the whole picture. The winds aren't going to be that high in Columbia. I think you're expecting tropical storm force, lower end. And so the tropical storm warning is in effect for Columbia. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think they dropped it about 4 hours ago. Because I looked at the CAE homepage and saw they dropped it. But yeah, I mean, the strongest gust I've had here today, maybe 20, 25 at best. I don't know, 30 on the high end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know the Lake Murray is still releasing water. They've been releasing water since we talked the other night, Tuesday, Wednesday night. So we're working on 4 days straight of 20,000 CFS discharges, which is about 5 million gallons of water every second, and they've been doing that for 4 to 5 days. And I know also Wateree's been releasing water also. I crossed over the Wateree River on I-20 going to Myrtle Beach the other day, and it was the highest I'd ever personally seen it. It was actually pretty impressive.
Well, it's about to get a whole lot higher, it looks like.
Oh,
Check
absolutely.
out. I've got the Wateree at Camden is forecast to go in a major flood with a crest of 35.4 feet. Is that what that says? Holy cow. I mean, the record's 40.4 feet, but I mean, that's about to rise very substantially. And then just up the Wateree at the Wateree Dam, and I accidentally clicked, so we're not going to see the little cool hover thing. It's going to peak around, it's going to crest around 104.2 sometime Tuesday night. So at least based on the current forecast. So river flooding is going to be, is really going to be a story. You know, we're not, just because flow is gone does not mean that we're not going to be talking about this storm for days and weeks after the fact.
Yeah, Jared, that's really, really interesting. Yeah, I was looking at that product earlier, and man, there's just some really interesting things going on there. Real quick, let me touch on. Let me see if I can pull up my screen share. Give me just a second here. Did have a really cool map to go on. 1 second. Okay, here we go. This is rain gauges from USGS, by the way, and just a few readings. Now, keep in mind here that these some of these sites have not been vetted properly through the NWS or the NHC, so we have to use this very cautiously. It's for development purposes only, it does say, but it gives us an idea of kind of what's going on. These are the cumulative rainfall map with Weather Service radar overlay. Some of these folks here, Banks Channel, 31.66 inches for 2 days. These values are climbing. Yes, Jacksonville, North Carolina, 26.22. Some of these rain gauge amounts are really going up, especially in these folks here. I mean, these are out. 36.73 at Surf City, North Carolina. This one was seeing that earlier. It's grown about 3 inches since then, but this rain's starting to spread, and we're starting to see rain accumulations pile up as we head further west. So just a few points of reference there that we're showing that the verification from the NHC is there for the 20 to 30 inch mark with isolated areas of 40 inches. That was the call from about 3 or 4 days ago, if not even maybe as I don't know if they called it 5 days. I think 3 or 4 days ago is when they started calling that one for that much rainfall. But we could see, like I said earlier, over those 40-inch totals by when it's all said and done. All right, back to you, Jared.
All right, and we got Scotty back. He's going to talk about the Greenville Spartanburg and the foothills and his whole neck of the woods up there.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. I was off camera. We were talking amongst ourselves here in the weather office. GSP just sent out an interesting message. I don't know if any of you guys are in the chat, but I want to read it to you because this is kind of what we've been facing today. Let me pull it up. This is from Josh Palmer. He's the hydrologist there. He's just talking about good evening, everyone. The rainfall rates today have been uninspiring. You know, we've not seen a lot of rain anywhere really west of Charlotte. And kind of talking about the model runs, they didn't really print out as much rain as what really happened. But as we go into the overnight hours, he said guidance is bullish on these higher rainfall rates arriving in the North Carolina Piedmont over tonight into tomorrow as Florence maybe starts to pull away and speeds up. No reason to disregard these predictions. Therefore, the significant flood threat will build overnight through Sunday night as we saturate the soils with the current precip, and the heavier rainfall rates on top of saturated soils will maximize runoff. And then he put this most important part to it, and this is what we were just discussing. Therefore, our concern is to the public may grow complacent due to the current precip and be ill-prepared Sunday morning through the day, Sunday, and through Sunday evening, when we expect travel to become dangerous due to heavy rainfall and flooding. If our media partners could really stress the importance of not letting one's guard down overnight through Sunday, we'd greatly appreciate it, and thank you for your support. So what we've been facing today is storm fatigue. It's really not been much of anything up here. We've had some gusty winds. We've had a few trees down. We've had on and off light rain, but it's not really materialized as being a heavy rain threat. And the reason for that is what Shay, Jared, Chris have all been talking about, is the slow movement of Florence. And so, you know, don't let your guard down if you live in the foothills. We are still expecting to see heavy rainfall amounts. That heavy rain starts to pick up tonight, but definitely tomorrow morning throughout the day, Sunday into Sunday night is when we're going to see what we're going to see a portion or maybe exactly what they're seeing on the east coast of North Carolina will be happening here in western North Carolina. So don't let your guard down. I know today was kind of those days where you said, hey, it's supposed to start raining, and it really didn't. But you know, with the models, the tools that we use and prior history and stuff like that, we definitely think the rainfall is going to increase throughout the evening. A general 6 to 10 inches is still possible anywhere in western North Carolina. That's the Charlotte area, back towards Hickory, Asheville, Marion, Morganton, Shelby, Concord, Salisbury, Statesville. That is definitely still a common number, 6 to 10 inches. And if we get those southeasterly winds to really kick up, and we kind of veer our flow from a northeast wind, which kind of for us in the foothills dries things out to more of an easterly or a southeasterly fetch, that allows that moisture to be banked up against the mountains, and is where we see the heavier rainfall totals and definitely the flash flood threat. So I know it's kind of in a waste today. I get it. I am wore out. Just waiting for the rains to come. But it looks like tomorrow definitely has the potential to be a very dangerous day. As Shay is showing you right now. He was showing you.
Sorry about that, Scotty. I was trying to find that where they talked about the Blue Ridge Escarpment, and it looks like they removed it from there. Are they still calling for 12 inches in that zone?
Yeah,
the higher elevations.
They are. I think it's dependent on who prepares those graphics, to be honest with you, because they've been kind of floating in and out throughout the past couple of days. But yeah, we're under a high rainfall or high flash flood guidance, whatever the wording is. I'm really tired. I can't think of the correct terms, but we're under the high threat for western North Carolina tonight and tomorrow, and that's as high as it can get. You know, there's 4 levels. There's marginal, slight, moderate, and high, and western North Carolina is in the high part for Sunday. So we're expecting to see conditions really start to go downhill late tonight into tomorrow. We've had some churches already cancel services. Some are not. My concern with that is when if church is going on, or if you're in churches, when we expect to really see that heavy rain move into the area. And so that is when we could start to see flash flooding. So, you know, that's kind of a tough call there. You don't really want people out during the heaviest rains and the flash flooding. So very tricky setup, but we're going to continue to watch it up here in the foothills. And you can throw stuff at me all you want to, because I got this one wrong today, but I think a lot of people did. I don't think we expected Florence to continue moving at 2 miles per hour today. But we do believe that Sunday will kind of make up for today, where we'll see definitely some heavy rain and flash flooding. I will not say as a guarantee, but it's almost a guarantee. But yeah, do you guys have, I'm sorry I had to jump out. Which areas have we not covered? Where were we at?
I think where RDU was going to be, I think we were going to touch on the Charleston area from Jared,
Yeah.
but I think we're okay from Charleston. Unless Jared, you want to offer some words for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that we have dodged a huge bullet down here in Charleston. Again, we started the week thinking that we were on the cusp of a Category 4 hurricane strike, or something very close. It was certainly within the realm of possibility. Thankfully, that did not happen here. There's going to be a lot of hand-wringing. There's going to be a lot of debate over whether, over the evacuations, over lots of things. And, well, we're going to let people have those discussions. There's a lot of discussions to be had. They needed to act in the interest of safety. Everybody got to come home today. The evacuation order is lifted. All the watches and warnings dropped. So things are starting to return to normal here a little bit. Not really expecting too many flooding issues, but there is going to be an issue with the Santee River near Jamestown. Real quick on the screen here. And let me get my screen share up here one more time. So really, Northeast Berkeley County is going to continue to experience some effects of this. They have gotten the Weather Service forecast has nailed it. They've gotten, from Southwest Charleston County got maybe a few hundredths of an inch. They've had over 3 inches in Jamestown with more to come. And so the Santee River near Jamestown is very close to flood stage, which is 10 foot. It's going to crest at 12 foot around Monday or Tuesday, and then slowly start to work its way back down. So there will be some minor river flooding up that way. And if any additional heavy rain bands set up, this could change. So something definitely that we need to watch around Jamestown in Northeast Berkeley County. But other than that, in the Charleston area, I mean, we really, 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 really dodged it. And we're counting our blessings today, my friends.
Totally agree with you, Jared. Yeah, we really have. With folks up in Eastern North Carolina, not so much. But this really could have stayed as a Category 3 or 4 all the way to the coastline. So we really did get lucky. A couple things, that upper shear and that dry air slotting really got to the storm. If it weren't for that last minute injection, man, I tell you, it would have been probably a Category 3 by the time it hit the coastline at the very least.
Yeah, it's bad enough now. I mean, it's bad enough as it is, and then you get those winds involved. I mean,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I guess I can do the RDU area. Let me. I got a couple of viewer questions, and we got one that's actually kind of concerning. A guy, let's see, Tony Millard asked, just saw a post at 911 Lumberton, North Carolina. Get out now. Confirmed dam has broke. Is this true? I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure we'll be fishing on Twitter here in a little bit. We'll look up that. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Do what, Chris? I thought Chris said something. I'm sorry. So we'll be looking into that one.
I said I'm on it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, don't believe everything you see just yet until it's verified. So we'll look into some things here. Frank Quantz Calvert asks, how is Linville, North Carolina? And again, real quick, I'll touch on this one. And Scotty was talking earlier about the rainfall amounts that are coming up that way. And there's a section here that's a higher elevation just to the west of Morganton, where the elevation goes up pretty high. You have the Linville Gorge and this whole area up in this spot. It's called the Blue Ridge Escarpment. And what we get is lifting of moisture coming in from the east and upslope, reaching up to the cooler condensed air aloft, and it mixes with that and then precipitates much higher than what these rainfall amounts could be. So this is just a Sunday precipitation forecast for that area, and we could be looking at a foot of rain when it's all said and done. So if you live up in the mountains, be very aware. Be tuning into the National Weather Service for your area and the local TV stations to find out what's expected for your zone. All right, we're going to take a quick look at, let me find RDU. Here we go. So this is the National Weather Service Raleigh office. And we're going to cover this zone now. 3 key points up front. The worst is not over yet. That's the #1 key phrase that they have. Intense rain bands will continue to move onshore tonight, resulting in additional localized flash flooding. Heavy rain is expected to shift towards the west later tonight and Sunday. Moderate to major river flooding into next week, especially across southern and eastern North Carolina. Summary of greatest impacts: significant flash flooding, extreme river flooding, limited wind in central North Carolina. This is residual tropical storm force winds expanding out that could just be there in gusts just over that threshold. Tornadic activity limited. Additional power outages are starting to come up to elevated. This may shift to significant in time. Main points of hazards are wind, flash flooding, river flooding, tornadoes, and power outages. Lots going on here, guys. So if you're up in that area, be hunkering down if you haven't left, or just be aware that you're going to have some big issues. Wind speeds through tonight should be in the 40s in Fayetteville, low 40s up towards Sanford. And then we get to 20s as we head up a little further up towards Roanoke Rapids. 7-day rainfall forecast once again puts a large swath of heavy rain still to come across portions of the RDU forecast zone. Flooding rain threat in the purple here is potential for extreme flooding rain. Major flooding rain is in the red, and moderate to the orange. Yellow is localized floods. So that's the flooding rain threat for tonight. Major to extreme flooding likely. Flooding threat will shift into the southern and western Piedmont Sunday and Monday. So that means you folks over in Greensboro and the Triad to the west will be affected by this as we go into Sunday and Monday. Tornado threat expanding out from the southeast is potential for several tornadoes, and then potential for a few tornadoes further inland. Basically, be on guard for tornadic activity. Let's see. Greatest river impacts are going to be exactly where these are drawn for extreme. We're seeing a lot of river flooding going on now. They're going on well above the major flooding heights for some of these rivers, and so that's going to continue to be an issue. Forecast rainfall totals. Estimated rainfall totals are going to be in these numbers here for a lot of these folks, a little bit more towards the southeast into Clinton and Goldsboro. Additional rainfall forecasts call for an additional 10 to 15 inches along the southern portions. Storm total rainfalls, we're looking at 15 to 20 inches for Fayetteville, Rayford, Carthage, 10 to 15 for Asheboro, all the way 8 to 10 inches in Lexington. Goldsboro, Clinton, 15 to 20 over here. So even more than that, probably get 20 inches plus for some of these areas in these two counties. So be aware of the rainfall totals. Mainstream rivers, Neuse and Little Rivers are currently in flood. So yeah, it's a bad situation all the way around.
That's going to be a major problem. There was one river in eastern North Carolina that it was supposed to rise another 30 feet or so before it was forecasted to crest. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the county that was in, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I think it was the Cape Fear. It was supposed to crest at like 60 feet.
Yeah, it was an astronomically high number. And from what I understood, it was higher than what even they saw with Hurricane Matthew. So that's going to be a main story. Once we finally get Florence out of here, is the main still river flooding. And if we get the heavy rain that we're expecting here in western North Carolina, it's going to start all the way from up here in the mountains and all the way to the coast. So those are some stories that we're going to have to look at. Shay, anything else we need to add for the Raleigh area, Greensboro?
No, nothing more. Just those rainfall totals are going to be surmounting, and as that rain pushes to the west, I'll pop up the GR Earthly once again, get some radar in motion so you can kind of see what's going on. The tropical banding is just going to continue to wrap from the Atlantic into the coast. Once again, this is fueled by the Gulf Stream and the Atlantic Ocean. We have a warm water current just offshore, about 30 to 60 miles out. And you can see the convection really blowing up just over that. And basically over the topographical feature known as the Blake Plateau is where this Gulf Stream is. And you can just see the convection banding into the coast non-stop. It is absolutely relentless for these folks up here. Let me see if I can pull up the COD and run composite radar with visible and see if we can get a better idea. It might take this a second to load, so just bear with me. It shows a little bit more on the radar at the composite level here. So we're looking at serious banding. The reds, of course, are the squall lines and tropical features. But you can see how fast it's pushing to the west, Scotty. So you guys should be starting to pick up on your rains overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think once we can get that load closer to Columbia, I think we'll be able to steer our easterly winds just a little bit more to start to get some moisture over the area. While you were talking, Kathy Kleinman asked about rainfall in Boone, and I'm glad that she did. We could definitely see, upwards of maybe 10 inches of rain up in Boone, but there are now evacuations taking place in Watauga County, especially in the areas that are lower lying and flood prone areas up in Watauga County. In fact, a few friends that live up there, I've seen where firefighters were knocking on folks' doors asking them to leave tonight well ahead of the expected heavy rain tomorrow because of the chance for flooding. So definitely the chance for some serious rainfall up in the Boone area. Jared, you said we have a new tornado warning just north of Wilmington, it looks like?
Yes, we do. It came out a few minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and let me take radar scope full here real quick. Give me just a second to go get that out. And one moment. Let me take that. But yeah, no indication that it's on the ground yet. No indication of anything like that. But it is definitely an interesting signature. And darn it, I think I
Jared, real
lost
quick,
my
while you're doing that, I do want to let the audience know that for the Charleston area, we go back to Charleston real quick. Berkeley, Charleston counties, most coastal zones, all schools are going to be back in full swing on Monday. So just a tidbit of information there.
Yep. Sorry, kids. So it wasn't going to last forever. Good for the parents, bad for the kids. Good for the kids. Little education goes a long way. So, all right. So got radar scope up here again. We're looking at a velocity and reflectivity next to each other. And this is the area of concern. It's moving very quickly here. So there's your area of concern. I'm going to pop open another 2 panels because, hey, we're all nerds here, right? And while that looks scary, while this large CC minimum over here around Skipper's Corner looks scary, that is actually not a debris signature. This is not a debris signature. This is just a little tornado vortex signature. It looks like nothing is being lofted. And it looks like the warning is expiring right now. So go us for being right on top of that tornado warning. But I will say that we've got more just sitting offshore. There's a lot. I mean, let's play count the couplet, shall we? Let's see. This looks like this one right here. This is okay. So that one just was unwarned. This one here. Let's see. Yeah, we got quite a few of these guys just lingering offshore, just ready to
those are probably water spouts. Those are probably embedded water.
Very likely.
Probably been happening all day long, just off the coastline as they go into the coast. So there's warnings. A lot of them are likely water spouts that have made landfall.
Yeah, that's very likely. And again, the warning north of Wilmington has expired. So we should be in good shape there. But it is, we still got a lot of spit ups. And again, these are going to be fast tonight. And these are going to be, whoa, that thing's tightening again. I would not be surprised if they pulled the trigger on another warning. I just got a new scan in, and that thing is, it's still looking pretty good. So we'll see what happens.
And Jared, that's a situation we saw back last year with Harvey, when we see kind of the same setup of this storm just stalling over the coast or moving very slowly, and then numerous tornado warnings. So, I would love to know how many warnings the Wilmington office has issued today, because it seems like it's been a lot. I'm sure there'll be a study about that.
Yeah, agreed. We can probably get that number for you.
Let's while you're doing that, let's toss it to Chris. Chris, you were actually out in the elements yesterday. We talked to you. What is today? Saturday. We talked to you Thursday night. You were in Myrtle Beach, waiting the arrival of Florence. So, kind of talk to us about your day yesterday.
Long. Really. Gosh, where do I even start? So it was Saturday. Yeah, I'm tired.
I think
so. Let's see. Let's rewind back to Thursday night after our show. Was staying oceanfront down in Myrtle Beach, where a bunch of press and meteorologists were, and I laid down about midnight, and the wind just howled, and it howled some more, and it was so deafening loud. I mean, at one point, I was laying down, I was like, does it feel like the hotel's swaying? And the only way that I figured it out, I'm like, I walked in the bathroom, I looked in the toilet bowl, and the water sloshing back and forth. I'm like, well, there you go. Yep. Okay. So anyways, finally went to bed about 5 a.m. Friday morning, got back up, and I was on the road by 10 o'clock. I was at the hotel, went up to Cherry Grove, and spent most all day up in Cherry Grove, Little River, North Myrtle Beach area. It wasn't real bad, maybe until about noon, 1 o'clock. Once the eye, the center, it wasn't really much of an eye at that point. Started across the South Carolina line, got within maybe 10 miles, 20 miles. The winds really picked up. Started getting some pretty good little gusts out in Cherry Grove. I was with one of my buddies from Twitter, Garrett Biedenbow. He used to be at Watch Fox here in Columbia. He's down at CBS 47 in Jacksonville now. Me and him hung out for most of the afternoon, and we were trying to get wind measurements for our kestrels, but both of them died. So go figure. But some of the wind gusts we got were pretty significant. All the damage I saw was pretty light. Actually, really impressed with some of the construction down there. Did see a bunch of shingles, gutters, and vinyl siding, things of that nature, all over the road. I got off the island, not really island, but I left the Cherry Grove area about 4 o'clock. I noticed that once the winds came around out of the southwest, the marsh side, for those that are familiar, there's a little bit of a marsh on the backside of Cherry Grove. The water in the marsh came up about 2 feet in about 30 minutes. And I was actually sitting right there watching it, and seeing that along with the roads that were already flooded, and, knowing the situation at hand, that 20 inches of rain are was possible, I made a decision. I just left, and so I came inland and scoped out the Little River Myrtle Beach area, and it seemed like there was nobody on the roads except law enforcement and some other spotters and weather folks. But it looked like, for the most part, the Grand Strand, as far as the wind damage, made out pretty well. Now driving home from Conway last night was a whole different story.
Yeah, Chris, tell us a little bit about that, because we were communicating with you and actually seeing, I think it was your Facebook stories, your Snapchat story, one of the two, about just the crazy wind that you're experiencing.
Yeah, the wind coming home last night was unreal. I mean, from the hold on one second, I got NWS chat pulled up. I think they just reissued that tornado warning. Yep. All right, sorry. Like I was saying, the drive home from Conway was incredible. A ton of rain. I mean, just blinding rain. I drove for about an hour and a half in solid tropical storm force, maybe even gusting close to hurricane force winds. And there were literally tops of trees flying across the road for most of the drive. It wasn't the safest drive I've ever made in my life, but it was a decision I made, so I made to stick with it and just took my time. The city of Aner had the stoplights were just hanging through the middle of the intersection. Especially the area 501 between Galavant Ferry and Marion saw a bunch of tree damage, and also the Marion County Airport. I think they have 3 or 4 hangars totally destroyed by the winds, and also they had 4 Robinson helicopters, a fixed-wing traditional airplane, and also a ultralight experimental airplane that was damaged by those winds. And a bunch of road closures, a lot of wind, a lot of damage just from trees and stuff like that.
Yeah, we saw your pictures today. It's pretty extensive damage that we saw that you were putting onto your Twitter account. So we were sharing that out. So thank you for those. Thanks for all your efforts there, Chris. I mean, you kind of had us worried last night. You were trying to get home. How long did it take you to get back?
6.5 hours from Myrtle Beach to Columbia.
Was that wasn't because of traffic? What was that, from road closures?
That was absolutely not from traffic. I can promise you that. It was from just road conditions. Trying to navigate safely and get to where I need to be. And of course, I stopped right there between Galavant Ferry and Marion, just quite honestly, to admire what I was seeing, because the cloud motion, the trees, the sound, it was up there with my weather experiences. And I got over a dozen tornadoes and 3 hurricanes now, and that was up there near the very top. It was impressive.
I'm sure you can't even go the speed limits on most of those roads because of down trees. I mean, if you're going 55 and all of a sudden here comes a huge limb, you're in trouble.
That's right.
Yeah, just think you could be with Josh Morganman with Ice Cyclone over in Luzon, doing a super typhoon. And,
yeah, has anybody heard from him?
Yeah, he's on to his next storm now. I think he's awesome. He travels around, all around. He goes to his big ones, and he likes to go to ones, especially when they're over 200 miles per hour in their wind. So I don't know how he does it.
Yeah,
anyway, Scotty,
I am beat.
I bet. Yep. We're all a little tired. I think we're all going to sleep well tonight. So, Scotty, do you have an update on the dam that we had a viewer question about up near Lumberton, North Carolina?
Yeah, so the question that came in about a dam failure, and I'd actually seen video of a dam failure in eastern North Carolina earlier this evening. So I was kind of familiar with that request, but it's not in Lumberton. It's actually in Southport. Jackson Fuller with the Star News down in Wilmington, it's the area newspaper down in southeast North Carolina, is reporting that they can confirm that the Bowling Springs Lake Dam has collapsed. Residents in the area should not panic, as Brunswick County Emergency Services believes that just one house would be affected by any runoff from the collapsed dam. And they have been alerted. Any questions, please call Brunswick County Emergency Services. So not in Lumberton, but it seems just to be like one of these little dams, community dams or something like that, has given way in Southport, which has been hit by a lot of rain over the past couple of days. So really not really surprising, but only one home seems to be kind of in the danger zone, and those folks have been alerted of that. So that is the dam failure. Hopefully that is what our I think it was Tony or Tanya was asking about earlier. I'll give you a couple of headlines today. Unfortunately, there are now 12 folks who are have died from the effects of Hurricane Florence, all in North Carolina. There's over, let me update the numbers here. As of
Scotty, on how for some of the, are they mostly drownings, or I heard there was an electrocution on one. There's all kinds of not to get into the real nitty gritty of it all when we talk about this, but just to make people aware of what the dangers are.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, and I don't think all of the causes have been released yet. A mother and her child was hit, was in the house, and was a tree fell on the house and took their lives. There was a home was on fire, and there's just the rescuers could not get to the home in time, and two folks passed away that way. There was a cardiac arrest, I believe, and one in the emergency crews could not get out there just because of the conditions. Those are the only ones that have the official deaths have come out from the Examiner in Raleigh. So I'm sure that as we go throughout the day tomorrow and so on, we'll probably hear more about the deaths. Several, just another one I just saw now. A lady was killed in Duplin County because of flash flooding on the roadways, and so a car swept, taking 3 people with them in flash flooding. So those are just kind of the deaths that we're seeing. Some were medical, but a tree falling on one home, and then another vehicle with someone in it, and then three flash flooding deaths. So those are storm related, and others were kind of related with the current conditions. So 12 deaths so far in the state of North Carolina, and as we see this heavy rain, I'm sure those numbers may increase. As of 9:45 p.m., over 600,000 people in North Carolina was without power. Again, on the coast, Carteret County, 98.5% of folks in Carteret County are out of power. I've heard all kinds of things from me being in the emergency management center here. You kind of see what's going on throughout the state, and a lot of things I can't share, but one thing that I will be able to say, because it's already been put out on the news, 25% of the homes and businesses in Carteret County have been either destroyed or heavily damaged from the effects of Hurricane Florence. So that is some sad news down there, but power outages there. Some good news, like Jared was talking about earlier, South Carolina evacuations have been lifted. I believe Horry County and Georgetown County are able to go back tomorrow morning from their evacuation. So evacuation still in effect for the barrier islands in North Carolina, and also the voluntary evacuation. The evacuation in Watauga County, I can't remember if it's voluntary or mandatory, but those evacuations. There are numerous shelters open in North Carolina. Our guest last night, Christian Schmidt, sent me a message earlier today saying that the shelter at East Mecklenburg High School is packed of evacuees. Very few spots left. There was still availability at Audrey Kell High School in Charlotte. These did have some kennels for the animals, so but they may be gone by now. So shelters are really starting to fill up in the Charlotte area as well. So just seeing this now from the Bowling Springs Lake Dam in Southport. Brunswick County emergency officials are saying that the lake rose 4 feet in 4 hours. And so the water was breaching the dam, and it finally gave way. Can you guys imagine 4 feet in 4 hours? I mean, that is massive lake rise with what was going on down there. So that's kind of the news that we got so far. We'll continue to push out those headlines. I was not able to catch much of the governor's press conference, Henry McMaster or Roy Cooper today, but I do know a lot of things going on in North Carolina. Numerous counties were granted the federal declaration of emergency. Hopefully that'll be able to free up some resources to come in and help the cleanup efforts, but also help the folks in Eastern North Carolina get back on their feet. So Shay, I think you've got a few more questions from the viewers before we sign off.
Yeah, I've had about 3 or 4 viewers ask about the tropics in general and what's going on. And someone asked if we should expect any more hurricanes by October 15th. And so we can't go that far out. That's a month out. And we can't get into specifics that far out. But what we do know is that the next 5 days, there's one area in particular. Helene and Joyce are going to continue off to the north and to the northeast. That's 3 tropical storms there. They were you know, they're going to not be affecting land. Maybe Helene over towards Europe, and of course Florence. But this area right here, this is what used to be Isaac. That was a hurricane. It approached Leeward Islands and it became a tropical storm and passed over the islands with winds of about 55 miles per hour. It dropped, I think, upwards of 6 inches of rain for a few of those islands. Nothing too damaging, no casualties, which is good news. I did talk to my contact, Nigel Shamari of the Majority Radio down there. They do mass media and radio shows all through these islands. So he said everybody was fine. It was just a brief storm that went through. But we do have a 20% chance next 48 hours and 20% next 5 days. This system looks to head into the Western Caribbean. Now, the waters are very warm over here. If this surface low is able to reorganize and get any kind of convection wrapped around it, it could be an area of concern, but the chance is very low because the upper shear in this area is great from north to south. It's going to be hammering on the system, and I don't think it's going to allow for it. So the chance for the system is low. It's not favored to develop, but it does. They're going to keep this circled, and just because of the area it's going into, because anytime you get a system moving from the Caribbean into the Gulf, this is a big concern for the area. None of the models are really picking up on it yet, but as far as the rest of the tropical Atlantic basin, we look to be okay for a while, at least the next 5 days. Nothing on the radar. I think we hit our peak around September 8th, 9th, and 10th, and we saw an explosion of systems, but we still have a long ways to go, and we still have another area that could spike in October. So we're not out of the woods yet, and things really fall off after about the middle, towards the end of October, and then as we get into November, the season really drops off. The activity really drops off because our waters get cooler. Now, the areas that we look for then will be into the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean, but outside of that, we're looking pretty good right now.
That's something I was going to ask you, Shay. I'd seen a few people tweet today, some of folks who are interested in forecasting for the tropics, and they said we could kind of go through a week and a half, 2 week kind of calm spell, and then it looks like it may spike up just a little bit last of September going into October.
Yep, that could very well be. I mean, right now we're seeing another large plume of Saharan dust move off the African coast that may inhibit any tropical waves. Nothing considerable coming across Africa right now. We tend to track systems moving across the coast. What you have is the rainforest to the south, the desert to the north. The gradient in between is where a lot of this moisture and spin begins to happen. You get this rotation going with these systems, and then by the time it gets to the coastline, that we determined the last two that came off the coast of Africa were circled before. So it was Florence and Helene were actually circled before they came off the coast of Africa, and they affected the Cape Verde Islands. So it's just one of these things we watch. We got to watch every single tropical wave that develops, not only in Africa leading to the coast, but also anywhere else in the tropical Atlantic basin, because these things can spawn anywhere. Just depends on what the surface feeling is like, what the atmospheric conditions are like, what the upper atmospheric shear is like over that area. It has to really be the right ingredients. So seeing a large, relaxing upper shear environment across most of the Atlantic for a good bit of time, this is what happens.
Well, it seems like the past few Octobers have been kind of busy for us in the tropics, so we definitely can't pay attention to those trends as we go through the rest of September into October. Any more questions that we see? I don't see many more that we haven't addressed. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock. Do you guys, before we wrap up, have any closing thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, one thought from Rob Sato Santi says, will the storm hit Colombia by October? Even the storms are slow in the south. Thanks for the bit of humor there, Rob. We appreciate that. And it's funny you say that because the storm is moving west at 2 miles per hour, which the average person walking is 3.1. And so we could outwalk this to Colombia at this rate. So
somebody, one of the TV personalities in Charlotte, Wilson, he tweeted a picture of a turtle and he said, "Look, this turtle passed Florence."
Yeah. Well, it's funny, but at the same time, it's like it's devastating too. It's it's not good for Eastern North Carolina. They are just getting hammered. I'll throw this GR Earth radar up one more time as we close up, Scotty, just so folks can see what's actually occurring. And so rainfall and flooding is going to be the name of the game here for the next several days.
Definitely so. That is the name of the game. So if you live in the Charlotte area, back towards Greensboro, Winston-Salem, back then towards Hickory, Morganton, Marion, the mountains, the upstate of South Carolina, Boone, up into Avery County, we're going to see a rain pick up in intensity tomorrow, and we definitely could see some flash flooding in those areas. So that is something that we're going to want to watch. And it looks like Florence is still. I don't even know if it'll get to Columbia by daybreak tomorrow, guys. I mean, it's just really slow out there. So, anyways, we hope you've enjoyed tonight's coverage. We will continue posting some updates on our social media pages. Tomorrow's coverage, I'm not sure, because if the forecast verifies, I would probably be extremely busy here in the EOC. So we'll see what tomorrow holds, but we'll probably still restream some of the governor's press conferences. And I think we just got another tornado. The tornado warning was expired for Pender County. So, but yeah, we will continue to monitor the situation. If we are not back here tomorrow night, as far as I know, it's something we're going to probably have to talk about in the next day or two. Our plan is to have Rick Smith on with us Wednesday night. He's going to talk about storm anxiety. I can't talk tonight.
Storm anxiety, Scotty.
Yeah.
And it's also there's a lot of different terms for it. But
what's the big word for it you use?
The mainstream term is astrophobia.
Yeah, astrophobia. Yeah, that. We're afraid of asteroids. So, but no, Rick Smith, he sent us a very cool email yesterday saying that if we needed to bump him to another night that we could do that. So we're going to talk about that. I'm not sure what our plan is. I would really like to have Rick on because I think it kind of correlates with what we've been dealing with here. But we'll discuss that internally and let you know. But if not, we will talk to you tomorrow at some point. We'll give you updates and things like that. And if we're not on tomorrow night, we will see you here Wednesday night for our regular show with Rick Smith. So for Jared Smith and Chris Jackson and Shay Gibson, I'm Scotty Powell here in the foothills. We're going to go get some rest because I think we're all got storm fatigue. We're all tired of Florence. And tonight, when you go to bed, just make sure you give it a big push so we can get it out of the Carolinas and out of our hair. So you guys have a great night. Stay safe out there. Remember, if you live in a flood-prone area, especially in central North Carolina and western North Carolina, make some arrangements to go stay with someone who is kind of in a higher place tomorrow because we definitely could see some flooding here. So you guys have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.